hard for me to sit here and justify in my head 7 life sentences because someone said I was a drug dealer. All of the money and the drugs that they had in the courtroom, none of that belonged to me. They had no tapes, not even a fingerprint of mine. They had nothing.
Serving time for murder for hire and multiple drug trafficking charges, Jimmy Henchman today looks like a man beaten down by the system. But rewind just over a decade earlier, he was on top of the world.
James Rosemond, aka Jimmy Henchman.
His name was tied to some of the deadliest beefs in hip-hop, shaking even the top rappers.
Well, don't give me no pass, man. I don't deserve passes. I'm a f***ed up. Okay, you should do something.
You gonna come shoot me, kill me. If you're not gonna kill me, stop shooting me. Don't come for me unless you're gonna come and get me.
With seemingly no retaliation and a reach that stretched into law enforcement itself, his influence looked untouchable. What most people overlook, though, is that Henchman was a key figure behind the biggest war in hip-hop.
They were checking to see who could win in a physical confrontation.
Police department declared war on street gangs.
James Rosemond's story starts in Harlem, in a neighborhood drowning in crime and drugs. Raised by a single mother, he still dreamed of making a name for himself. As a teenager, he fell in with a gang called the Untouchables. By 16, he already had 2 gun charges. After dropping out of school, he was hit with armed robbery charges and sent to Rikers Island for a year. Less than a year after his release, he caught another shooting case. He bailed out on the gun charge, but months later, he was arrested for homicide. That murder case was dismissed, and instead he pleaded guilty to a weapons charge. The result? A 5 to 10-year prison sentence. But prison didn't break him. Behind bars, Henchman crossed paths with Richard Moore, a leader in the Black Panther Party. Moore encouraged him to sharpen his mind, not just his hustle. By the time Henchman was released, he had earned an associate's degree and vowed to approach the streets with a new kind of strategy. It took him just 3 years of running the crack business before he turned his eyes to the music industry. Or did he?
Jimmy Henchman has been accused for cocaine distribution.
An alleged drug kingpin.
Drug kingpin. Drug lord.
Was this a genuine attempt to go legitimate, or just a cover for what he was really doing? Popular opinion paints James Rosemond as a ruthless criminal who infiltrated the music industry, a gangster capable of anything: violence, intimidation, power moves. That reputation was cemented when his name became tied to the infamous Quad Studios shooting of Tupac Shakur.
Controversial rap star Tupac Shakur was
shot 5 times inside the lobby of a Times Square recording studio
after midnight when 3 robbers confronted him and his friends.
The incident was covered by every major outlet, but to this day, the details remain cloudy, with contradictory versions of what really went down that night. Rosemond had already launched Henchman Entertainment and later co-founded a management company, putting him in the center of the industry. With heavy street credibility backing him, he had access to some of the biggest artists, including Tupac Shakur. Jimmy had pitched Tupac on management, but Pac turned him down. Still, Henchman had another plan.
I had met Tupac when I was kicking it when we was working on the Little Sean album. I asked him would he like to be on a cut with Little Sean. He expressed that he wanted to do the cut. Andre thought it was a good idea. I got back with Tupac and told him, yo, I'm gonna set up some time and we could get it going. So I got it together. This was the night of the incident.
On November 29th, 1994, Quad Studios in Midtown Manhattan was buzzing. The building was a hub for New York's biggest names. Jimmy Henchman and Uptown Records executive Andre Harrell were inside, recording a track with rapper Lil Sean. Jimmy had arranged for Tupac to come and lay a verse for a track, personally setting up the appearance at the request of the label.
We was waiting on Tupac. 10 o'clock rolled around, 11 o'clock rolled around.
Tupac showed up 2 hours late, and then out of nowhere, the unexpected happened.
They ordered him to the floor. Tupac resisted. He was shot numerous times, once in the left arm,
twice in the head, and twice in the groin area.
Tupac's side of the story is straightforward, but it had to come over a year later while still in prison. Only one man knew beforehand he was coming: Jimmy Henchman. Minutes after entering the lobby, Tupac was ambushed and shot multiple times. Miraculously, he staggered his way upstairs to the studio. In that interview with Vibe magazine, Tupac recalled the look on Jimmy's face when he walked in. Jimmy Henchman looked like he was surprised to see him.
He turned around and looked at me and said, "Yo, you're the only one who knew that I was coming. You must have set me up."
The shooting sparked rumors that Henchman had set him up, even though no solid evidence tied him to the attack. Shortly after, hip-hop figure Fab Five Freddy began interviewing key players to capture their recollections of that night. That's when Jimmy Henchman gave his side of the story.
It was a little extraordinary that so much people were stopping by. But people would come by and be like, "Yo, who's working there?" And people would say, "Well, Tupac and Sean." The word definitely got out that Tupac was on his way.
But here's where the story gets twisted. Almost everyone who was at Quad that night gives a different version. Who shot Tupac, how many times he was hit, and why it even happened.
Pop turned around and that's where you go with joint. And then the shot went off. He made a mistake on his own. He did something to his motherfucking self.
The most explosive detail came later. While Tupac was still locked up, he was told that Biggie himself had set him up.
While I'm in jail, strangers is telling me, "Yo, you don't know? Biggie homeboy shot you." Because they bragging, they telling they in jail. Yo, we just got popped.
That made Pac feel singled out, betrayed, and surrounded by enemies, especially because Tupac played a huge role in shaping Biggie's career. And if there's one thing about Tupac, it's that he was never quiet about his suspicions.
Study why I would be mad. Study how after I met Biggie, Ready to Die come out, his whole style changed. Study.
Coupled with gross rumors while he was in jail, Tupac felt very disrespected, and that ignited a fire in him. A fire that couldn't be put off.
I had little girls writing to me crying, saying, "You got in jail, I'm so sorry." That shit right there is what will fuel the anger that will never die.
What began as whispers in the streets became legend once Pac called Jimmy out directly on his track against all odds.
Did I mention? Promise to pay back Jimmy Henchman in due time. I know you bitch niggas is listening. The world is mine.
What followed after was back and forth, and before anyone realized it, the feud had spiraled out of control. The East and West Coast were now locked in war, and there was no going back.
Rap star Tupac Shakur died last night after a brief life in a rough business. He was 25.
The gangster rap world has been shaken again, this time by the violent death of the performer known as Notorious B.I.G.
Years later, in 2005, Jimmy tried to clear his name by working with journalist Ethan Brown on a profile meant to tell his side. But instead of cleaning up his reputation, the piece backfired. The article doubled down on the problematic reputation Jimmy Henchman already had. They referred to him as an Uber villain. 2008. Things hit a breaking point. The Los Angeles Times ran a front-page story written by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Chuck Phillips, definitively naming Jimmy Henchman as the mastermind behind the 1994 Quad Studios shooting. The story claimed FBI files backed the allegations, but it all unraveled when the evidence was revealed to come from a con man who had forged FBI documents.
With a Pulitzer Prize winner like Chuck Phillips to validate a rumor, then it becomes real.
Chuck Phillips claimed he had been tricked by the con, who was actually a known felon. The LA Times was forced to retract the article and eventually paid Rosemond a financial settlement. But by then, the damage was done. Jimmy's name was now permanently tied to the shooting, whether he was guilty or not.
It wasn't only the Tupac fiction that I was accused of. It was also that I was racketeering in the business, that I was extorting in the business. I was walking in people's offices and shaking them down.
Then, in 2011, another twist added fuel to the fire. Dexter Isaac, a longtime associate of Rosemond, came forward from prison claiming he was the one paid $2,500 by Jimmy to rob Tupac that night at Quad Studios. According to Isaac, Jimmy told him he could keep most of Tupac's jewelry, but to make sure to hand back one specific diamond ring. That eerie detail made the story feel less like a random robbery and more like a setup, cementing the suspicions that had lingered for nearly 2 decades. Jimmy Henchman denied the claims, stating he and Tupac were on good terms before the fateful night. He alleged that Dexter Isaac's magical story was a fabrication designed to benefit the prosecution in his cases. The true motive behind the Quad Studio shooting may never be fully known. Many of the key players have passed on, and no one has ever been prosecuted for the attack. But when Jimmy Henchman was convicted in 2013, facing murder for hire and a laundry list of drug trafficking charges, many in the hip-hop world felt a grim sense of closure, even without factual evidence tying him directly to that night in '94. And not rightly so. His downfall only cemented the belief that he had been behind it all along.
I became the music business boogeyman.